Hi everyone. Today's our guest, an international lawyer who has 14 offices in different countries, who took journey from Karimnagar to New York, a well-known and a dynamic lawyer who doesn't give diplomatic answers. His answers will give solutions to many. Personally, he cleared a lot of legal issues for many people and gave new life to lead. Let's welcome our guest, Mr. Srinivas Rao. Thank you for coming to my show, Uncle. Welcome to Mayuri's Occult Talk Show.
Thank you.
So, my first question is, what is international law?
There are domestic laws and international law. International law is mostly when United Nations come and they sit together, all the countries, they will say, let's have a platform for everybody. Mm-hmm. For example, if you're going on the plane, so in the air, there has to be one uniform law for every country. Mm-hmm. So somebody is traveling in the sea. Mm-hmm. So sea belongs to nobody, right?
Yeah.
So they said, let's have a maritime law. Mm-hmm. So these are two. And let's say you're sending a spaceship, people are going into the space. Mm-hmm. So there should be some law, space mm-hmm. law. Mm-hmm. So it has to be uniform for the whole of the world. Those are international laws. Mm-hmm. And let's say how this started. Mm-hmm. This started after Second World War. Mm-hmm. After Second World War, they said, let's do a human rights law. Mm-hmm. That, people are killing and wars are there and war victims are there. There are certain rules to be there. For example, mm-hmm. let's say America. America has 50 countries. So every state has its own law. But there's only one federal law, which mm-hmm. is for the whole of the country. Mm-hmm. So, but it is only applicable to America. Yeah. For example, there's a country next door to America is Canada mm-hmm. and Mexico. So Mexico was ruled by Spanish people. So they have Spanish law. It's called civil law. Mm-hmm. And Canada was ruled by French and English. So they have French law and English law. So they said, every country, if you go to Middle East, they have Muslim law, Islamic law, Shariat laws. Mm-hmm. And if you go to India, it's a Hindu law. Mm-hmm. So if you go to Nepal, it's a Hindu law. So the whole world is having different types of laws.
Their own country laws.
Their own country law. That is called domestic law. Mm-hmm. All these countries, United Nations, after World War II, mm-hmm. they said we should all have a uniform law. Mm-hmm. We can't be saying you have one law, my law. So they said, let's do some laws uniform all over the world. If you see human rights, mm-hmm. right to life is a right to life, mm-hmm. whether it is in India or America or England, wherever. So they said human right is right to life, mm-hmm. and right to have children, mm-hmm. and right to have abortion, mm-hmm. and right to have a job, mm-hmm. and so right to have nice clean environment. So these are all universal laws. These are all human right laws. The United Nations came and said, and they said, let's have a uniformity. So that's what they made. Mm-hmm. So there are certain laws, these are called international laws. So there is a difference between an international law and a domestic law. Mm-hmm. Countries like India, common law countries, civil law countries, Islamic countries, there are different types of legal systems in the world. Mm-hmm. They said, let's adopt this uniform. Let's take environmental law. Mm-hmm. They said, we all have sea, we all have rivers, mm-hmm. so don't pollute sea. Because if you pollute sea, there are fish, there are marine creatures, they will die. So when they die, the sea becomes polluted, yeah. and it is dangerous also. So they said, let's have a water act. Yeah. And the whole world, we need oxygen. Mm-hmm. So let us not cut trees. So that's environmental law. They said, let's have oxygen for the whole world. So there's Air Act. Mm-hmm. And there is, don't do noise. Don't have a noise pollution. So, noise is also a polluter. So they said, let's not have noise. For example, because industrialization happened. Because the whole world was an agrarian economy. The whole world before was based on agriculture. Mm-hmm. After Second World War, industrialization started. So they said because of industries, labor should have certain rights. Mm-hmm. For example, if the women are working, they should have certain rights. If women with the children are working, they should have certain rights. So men also have to certain rights. For example, you have to have a uniform. You have to have some lights in the factory. You should have proper oxygen. And for example, if you become sick, you should have medical facility. And if you're working in the nights, you should have proper food, and you should have bathrooms for women, bathrooms for men. So these are all labor laws. So the United Nations came and said, International Labour Organization said, let's have laws for the labor. So now it's uniform. So that laws are everywhere in the world is same, whether it is England or India or America or Canada. So these things are international law. What they did, local countries, they have adopted that. What they did, they took the international law, they started enforcing into their domestic law, in their constitution. For example, if you see American Constitution or English Constitution or Canadian or American, Australian, right to life is there in Constitution. So they took this American, human rights, Magna Carta, they put it in constitutions. So to have a better life for human beings, for civilization, and right to work, right to have your own business. Because if you see in the world, there are so many religions, and they said, let's have a platform to have right to express and profess your own religion. Because if you see in the world, the biggest religion in the world is Christianity. Jesus Christ. And he was born as a Jew, but he was crucified. But after him, Christianity came. Biggest religion in the world. And what is the second biggest religion in the world? Is Islamism. And the third biggest religion is Buddhism. And fourth is in Hinduism. So if you see that, and they said, let's have some religious harmony. Let's practice, that's called secularism. America is secular, India is secular, Great Britain, all these countries. They said, let's have a tolerance of, religion. If you're a Hindu or a Christian or a Buddhist or a Jew, let's live together happily. So those are all universal declaration. These are called religious rights. And they said, you want to contest in elections. These are political rights. And democracy, it's not anymore kings. What is democracy? Of the people, by the people, for the people. We elect the politicians, prime ministers or presidents. They said these are the political rights. There are economic rights, so you can have business. Because if you see America, it's an enterprise country. Anybody can come and start a business. But many American companies, their owners are sitting outside. If you see 7-Eleven, the owners are in Japan. And so many companies, they are outsiders, they're not Americans. And they run businesses in America. So these are economic rights. And Hindus are coming and having temples in America. That is a religious right. And Islamic people are coming and building their mosques in America. Those are called religious rights.
So basically, they put all kind of categories into the international law. Okay.
So this international law is being adopted by the countries, and it's been written in the Constitution, and that Constitution is like a Bible. So we follow that. All the laws emerge from Constitution. So that is the beauty of international law. So the international law, the question is, which is the highest court in international law? International Court of Justice. If two countries are fighting for a border, where they should go? They go to the International Court of Justice. Yeah. For example, if you've committed a crime, international crime, for example, recently COVID came in the world, and England and many countries sued China in International Criminal Court, saying that you caused this pandemic.
Is there a proper international criminal court?
Yes, there's a
international. Where is it?
It is in Hague. I go there.
Oh, really?
I file cases on China, on behalf of Nepal, on behalf of SP Balasubramanian family. I filed cases in International Criminal Court. And I also filed a case on Jagan's government because there was a human rights violations on behalf of Andhra guys. I was a guy I filed 3 times in that court. There's an International Criminal Court. So there's an International Criminal Court, there's an International Commercial Court where people go if there are 2 countries are fighting. And they go there and they file. So recently, if you see Israel, South Africa filed a case on Israel, saying that you came and that in Palestine you intruded and you're killing people. So International Court of Justice, 12 judges, they said Israel is wrong. But America is in favor of Israel, so nobody can do anything. So this is all international law topics. So one has to understand international law. So I have done masters in international law. That's the reason I follow all of this, and I file cases in International Court of Justice. And the domestic laws, for example, if you're educated in America, they teach American law. For example, I went to law school in New York, so they teach us 35 subjects in New York law. So every state in America has different laws. And
So you can do international law at the same time you can do the domestic law.
Domestic in New York law. And because I went to law school in Australia and I studied my master's and bachelor's, so we studied international environmental law, all of that, and bachelor's. So I also can practice Australian law because I'm a qualified lawyer there too. And additional to that, I also studied in England, so I also can practice in England. We have an office in England now, and we have an office in New York, we have an office in Australia, and we also have an office in India because I studied my law in India too. So I teach law in India. So we also practice Indian law from district court to the Supreme Court of India. I have an office in Delhi also. So I also advise clients on Indian law. When you see Indian law, because we have Hindu law, Muslim law, Christian law, 3 different laws. So we advise clients on different areas. So people getting married, interracial marriages. Hindus are marrying Christians, Christians are marrying Hindus. So it's a special marriage act. And what will happen for the children if they get divorced? If they have a property in India, if they have a property in America, which court they have to go, whether they have to go to America.
Yeah, we will cover all of this, Ankit.
So, yes.
So my next question is, basically nowadays we see a lot of students coming from India and other countries, maybe like not like India, but other countries also, but the highest rate is from India. So when we see the stats, it's most of the students are from Telangana, Telugu states, and Punjab.
True.
So as a middle class parent or upper middle class parent, do you send your kid in this situation to US or any other country to
For education.
for education?
See, if you see, Mayuri, in the world, economics, one has to understand economics. Always countries have recession, inflation. It is all over the world every time. If you see from the time of World War, and after the World War, a lot of people migrated to America. There were no jobs in America, but people still came to America. A lot of women started going for employment. That is the time women were going to the factories to work in stitching. That was the first time women started working in the world. So when you see the world, if you see world wars, and if you see pandemic COVID in the world, if you see flu from Spain, every time in the world there are economic downfall and upheaval. And there's always problems in the world. So opportunities are there every time. So what I would suggest that people have to see, they have to do some research. Unfortunately, people don't do research. I give you a small example. Now, after post-COVID, a lot of people in Europe, especially medical professionals, they died. And Europe is looking, they want some nurses and doctors in Europe now. So when you do research, if you're a medical professional, you should go to Europe now. And England is also giving work authorization for nurses and doctors and medical professionals.
So they are highly required.
They're highly required there. And now in America, after post-COVID, a lot of schools don't have mathematics teachers. And America is hiring maths teachers and science teachers. And people from Philippines are coming to teach that. So you should come and take such jobs. So when you see every time now, if you see...
on this, for the visas, for the teachers, do they come on H1 or they have a separate kind of...
They come on H1, they come on J1.
Oh, okay.
And we are assisted a lot of teachers. So when you see the world, every time, if you see now, let's say now, anybody who's coming to America now for robotic engineering and artificial intelligence, that's the area now. And I just finished my PhD in artificial intelligence. there's so much of opportunities in artificial intelligence. And if you are coming to study that, there's a tremendous opportunity.
So do they get scholarships?
There are scholarships and there are jobs available. People are starting with $250,000 salary. So you must do research when you're sending your children to a certain particular area. But unfortunately what happens, most of our, as you rightly said, in India, these parents are all middle class families. They're not educated. They don't understand because the next door guy is going to America and you want to send your child to America. But they have to do minimum research. Definitely yes, because I am, I understand how things work in the world. So I would rather send my children for those courses where there's potential. So if you're sending people for cybersecurity is also very highly paid now. So when you send children for such courses and they have to concentrate and study, most of the time these kids are coming to work in restaurants and odd jobs. And they're not concentrating on education. If they concentrate good when they're in school, definitely I would send my child. But the other thing is also, lot many Indians don't know, in central government in India, there are 100 crores for foreign education.
Oh, really?
100 crores.
So they give as a loan, or
Yes, not loan, grant.
it's like a scholarship?
Yes, scholarship.
Oh, wow.
Because last time I was in India, I was addressing a crowd in Meerut University. The next guy who was sitting with me was from UGC, University Grants Commission. He said, sir, there are crores of rupees in central government in BJP where you can take scholarship if you're a good student. If you get 70% marks, you can apply for a foreign education and you can go overseas by the central government of India. How many kids know this?
No, nobody. Nobody knows
Nobody
this.
does research.
Yeah.
And the state government of Telangana is also giving. Andhra Jagan is also giving. There's a scheme for if somebody wants to go overseas. And there are so many Fulbright scholarships, there are Indian scholarships, England scholarships, Australian scholarships, and American scholarships also. How many kids they apply? Nobody applies. So they have to do this research if they want to come to America or any parts of the world. And I'm sure your audience will listen to this and they will understand that there are many ways they can come to America by taking loans, and if they do those courses and if they go back or if they go to any part of the world, they get $250,000 salary jobs. So definitely I would send my child.
So since the Telugu states students are coming from India to US, so I want the same thing, if you can tell in Telugu also, so that lot of parents can hear and...
మన తెలుగు పేరెంట్స్కి ఏంటంటే అందరికీ ఏంటంటే అమెరికాకి మా అమ్మాయిని పంపించేయాలి అదొక ప్రెస్టీజ్. బట్ ఏ స్టేట్కు పంపిస్తున్నాము, ఏ యూనివర్సిటీకి పంపిస్తున్నాము, ఏ కోర్సుకు పంపిస్తున్నాము, ఏ సిటీకి పంపిస్తున్నాము, ఇది ముఖ్యమైన విషయాలు. ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒకవేళ పేరెంట్స్ బిడ్డలతో కూర్చోనో లేకపోతే ఎవరైతే ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కన్సల్టింగ్ కంపెనీస్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, ఇండియాలో దేర్ ఆర్ సో మెనీ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కన్సల్టింగ్ కంపెనీస్ అన్ని ఊళ్ళలో ఉన్నాయి. వాళ్ళు ఏంటంటే మీరు వీళ్ళ పేరెంట్స్ వెళ్తే వాళ్ళకి ఏదైతే యూనివర్సిటీస్కు కాంట్రాక్ట్ ఉందో వాళ్ళ స్కూల్స్కే పంపిస్తారు. ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళకి 20-25% కమిషన్స్ వస్తాయి బ్యాక్ ఎండ్. ఇది చాలా మంది పేరెంట్స్కు తెలీదు. కొన్ని వాళ్ళు ఏమంటారు, మీరు 5,000-10,000 ఇవ్వండి, మీకు ఆయనతోటి ఇప్పించేస్తాము, మీరు పలానా కాలేజ్కే వెళ్ళండి అని వాళ్ళు స్పెసిఫిక్గా చెప్తారు ఆ కాలేజ్కి వెళ్ళమని. మరి ఆ కాలేజ్లో ఆ కోర్సెస్ ఏవైతే ఆఫర్ చేస్తున్నారో వి మస్ట్ సీ దానికి పొటెన్షియల్ ఉందా, దానికి ఫ్యూచర్ ఉందా, అది చూసుకోవాలి, రీసెర్చ్ చేసుకోవాలి. రెండోది పర్టికులర్ సిటీస్కు పంపిస్తున్నారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ లూజియానా ఉంది, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కొన్ని స్టేట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, అక్కడ హై క్రైమ్ రేట్, అక్కడ పంపిస్తారు ఆ కాలేజెస్కి. అక్కడ ఈ మధ్యకాలంలో చాలా మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ తుపాకీ గుండుతో
క్యాంపస్ జాబ్స్ దొరకక బయట జాబ్స్ చేయడము,
చనిపోతున్నారు, చంపేస్తారు. లేకపోతే మగ్గింగ్ అవుతుంది, క్రైమ్స్ అవుతున్నాయి, నల్లవాళ్ళు వచ్చేసి మగ్ చేస్తారు. సో వన్ మస్ట్ బి పేరెంట్స్ వాళ్ళంతా మన దగ్గర చూసేవాళ్ళు రీసెర్చ్ చెయ్యాలి. నాన్న మీరు ఏ ఊరికి వెళ్తున్నారు, ఏ కాలనీకి వెళ్తున్నారు పని చేయడానికి, ఇవి ఇంకొకటి. మూడోది, ఇప్పుడు సెంట్రల్ గవర్నమెంట్లో స్టేట్ గవర్నమెంట్లో అందరి దగ్గర కూడా మనకు ఆన్లైన్లోనే ఉన్నాయి. సో దే షుడ్ డూ సమ్ రీసెర్చ్. అక్కడికి వెళ్ళి తెలుసుకుంటే అప్లికేషన్ దొరుకుతాయి. 1-2 సార్లు ఢిల్లీకి వెళ్తే వాళ్ళకి స్కాలర్షిప్స్ కూడా దొరుకుతున్నాయి. యూజీసీలో ఉన్నాయి, దెర్ ఇస్ ఫండ్స్ అవైలబుల్ ఇన్ ఢిల్లీ. నేను మొన్న అంటే నాకు ఢిల్లీలో ఆఫీస్ ఉంది, అక్కడ నాకు పరిచయాలు ఉన్నాయని చెప్తున్నాను నేను. సో వాళ్ళ కల్చర్ నాకు ఉన్నాయి, డబ్బులు ఉన్నాయి. సో వన్ మస్ట్ యూజ్ దట్. అది కాకుండా అమెరికన్ గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా థర్డ్ వరల్డ్ కంట్రీస్కి, ఆఫ్రికా లాంటి కరేబియన్ కంట్రీస్కి, మన ఇండియాకి కూడా స్కాలర్షిప్స్ ఉన్నాయి. అమెరికావి ఫుల్ బ్రైట్ స్కాలర్షిప్స్ అని ఉన్నాయి. అంబేద్కర్ గారు అప్పుడు ఆ కాలంలో ఫుల్ బ్రైట్ స్కాలర్షిప్లో వచ్చారు అమెరికాకు, మాస్టర్స్ ఆఫ్ లా చేయటానికి కొలంబియాలో. సో దెర్ ఆర్ సమ్ స్కాలర్షిప్స్ ఇఫ్ దే వాంట్ టు స్టడీ ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్, రోబోటిక్ ఇంజనీరింగ్, ఆ ఏరియాస్లలో స్కాలర్షిప్స్ ఉన్నాయి. పేరెంట్స్ వాళ్ళు పిల్లలతో కూర్చొని రీసెర్చ్ చేసి తెలుసుకోవాలి. మూడోది ఏంటంటే ఇండియాలో కూడా టాటా వాళ్ళు, బిర్లా వాళ్ళు కొన్ని ఫండ్స్ ఇస్తారు. దీన్ని సిఎస్ఆర్ ఫండ్స్ అంటారు. వాళ్ళు కూడా స్టూడెంట్స్ ఎవరైతే ఎక్సలెంట్ స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉంటారో వాళ్ళకు చదివిపించడానికి గ్రాంట్స్ లాగా ఇస్తారు. యూ డోంట్ హ్యావ్ టు పే దెమ్ బ్యాక్. ఇది ఎంతమందికి తెలుసండి? ఎంతమంది రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తారు? ఎవరు చెయ్యరు. నోబడీ నోస్. మీరు అనొచ్చు మరి మీకు ఎలా తెలుసు ఇవన్నీ? ఎందుకంటే నేను 5 దేశాల్లో చదువుకున్నాను కనుక నాకు తెలుసు. బికాజ్ ఐ డూ లాట్ ఆఫ్ రీసెర్చ్. దిస్ ఆల్ రీసెర్చ్ అన్న. అండ్ ఇప్పుడు మునుపటిలాగా ఎక్కడో కంప్యూటర్ సెంటర్ పోయి చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ ఇన్ యువర్ సెల్ ఫోన్ నా. మీ ఇంట్లో కూర్చొని చేసుకోవచ్చు ఇప్పుడు. సో అండ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ అవైలబుల్. తెలుగులో కూడా చూసుకోవచ్చు నా గూగుల్లో. ఇప్పుడు ఇంతకుముందు లాగా మాకు ఇంగ్లీష్ రాదు అంటే గూగుల్లో తెలుగు సబ్జెక్ట్ పెట్టుకొని మీరు తెలుగులో మాట్లాడితే కూడా తెలుగులో మీకు అది గూగుల్ చెప్పేస్తుంది మీకు. ఇప్పుడు నా ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ వచ్చేసి మీ వాట్సాప్లో కూడా వచ్చింది ఇప్పుడు మెటల్. సో ఇఫ్ యూ ఆస్క్ ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్ ఇన్ యువర్ లాంగ్వేజ్ ఇట్ విల్ టెల్ యూ. అంటే రిసోర్సెస్ అన్నీ ఉన్నాయి, మనం బ్లేమ్ చేయడానికి లేదు. సో ఈ పేరెంట్స్ అంతా కూడా మేము చదువుకోలేదు, మాకు అప్పటి కాలం వాళ్ళం కాదు అని చెప్పడానికి లేదు. సో దే హ్యావ్ టు మేక్ యూజ్ ఆఫ్ దోట్ రిసోర్సెస్. ఆ రిసోర్సెస్ యూజ్ చేసుకొని ఈ దేశాలకు రావాలి. నాట్ ఓన్లీ అమెరికా, ఇప్పుడు జర్మనీలో దే గివింగ్ ఫ్రీ ఎడ్యుకేషన్. మొన్న కొంతమంది స్టూడెంట్స్ వెళ్ళారు జర్మనీకి, కొంతమంది ఇటలీకి వెళ్తున్నారు, కొంతమంది యూరోప్కి వెళ్తున్నారు. ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ సంబడి వాంట్స్ టు గో టు ఐర్లాండ్లో మీకు మాస్టర్స్ కావాలనే దే ఆర్ గివింగ్ వర్క్ పర్మిట్స్. విత్ ఇన్ 2 years దే గివింగ్ గ్రీన్ కార్డ్స్. ఎంతమంది తెలుసు? అట్లా చాలా కంట్రీస్ ఇస్తున్నారు. నేను మొన్న లాస్ట్ 2 years ఐ వెంట్ టు మాల్టాలో హోటల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ చదువుకున్న వాళ్ళకి అక్కడ వర్క్ పర్మిట్స్ దొరుకుతున్నాయి. బికాజ్ దేర్ ఆర్ థౌజండ్స్ ఆఫ్ హోటల్స్ దేర్. ఎందుకు? అది యూరోప్లో అది హాలిడే, అందరూ పోతారు అక్కడ. 375 days there is water there is sun there. People go there holiday. So lot of tourism people, students ఎవరైతే టూరిజం and హోటల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ చదువుకున్న వాళ్ళు they can go to Malta. Beautiful country, English speaking country. Because I went there, I know, I understand. పోలాండ్ కూడా, అంటే మెనీ కంట్రీస్ వాట్ ఐమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు సే. సో మనం రీసెర్చ్ చేసుకొని ఆ పర్టికులర్ కంట్రీకి వెళ్తే మనకు వర్క్ పర్మిట్స్ దొరుకుతాయి, చదువులో కూడా కొన్ని స్కాలర్షిప్ దొరుకుతాయి, దాని తర్వాత గ్రీన్ కార్డ్స్ కూడా దొరుకుతాయి. నాట్ ఎవ్రీబడి మస్ట్ కమ్ టు అమెరికా. ఎందుకంటే అమెరికాలో 17 to 20 years వెయిటింగ్ పీరియడ్ గ్రీన్ కార్డ్ కోసం. ఇక్కడికి ఎందుకు వచ్చి మీరు బాధపడాలి? యూ కెన్ ఆల్సో గో టు అదర్ కంట్రీస్. దాట్స్ మై సజెషన్.
So on the same basis on the green card, so the people who are coming from H1B, so EB2, EB3 categories, they already filed the labor and everything. So is there a way without PhD can they get a green card with EB1?
Okay. EB1 అంటే these are all extraordinary people. EB1లో when you have a master's degree, for example, I'll give you an example. ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సంబడి హూస్ ఇన్వెంటెడ్ ఆర్ డిస్కవర్ వాట్సాప్. మరి ఇప్పుడు ఆయన వాట్సాప్ అతను ఎవరైతే స్టార్ట్ చేశాడో ఈ కేమ్ ఫ్రమ్ యూరోప్. యాక్చువల్గా ఎలా వచ్చిందంటే వాట్సాప్ వాళ్ళ ఫాదర్ యూరోప్లో ఉండేనంటే మదర్ ఇక్కడ, ఆమె షీ వాజ్ ఎ హౌస్ కీపర్. హీ డిడ్ంట్ హ్యావ్ మనీ టు కాల్ హిస్ ఫాదర్. సో ఆయన టెక్నాలజీ చదువుకొని బ్యాచులర్స్, ఐ వాంట్ టు సీ మై ఫాదర్ అండ్ టాక్ టు హిమ్ ఫర్ ఫ్రీ అని డిస్కవర్ చేశాడు. వీడియో కాల్స్, వాట్సాప్ వచ్చింది. మరి ఇట్స్ ఎ రెవల్యూషన్ ఇన్ ద వరల్డ్ కదా. ఇఫ్ యు సీ ఊబర్ ఆల్సో, ఊబర్ కూడా ఒక అతను ఆయన దగ్గర హీ డిడ్ంట్ హ్యావ్ మనీ టు టేక్ ఏ ట్యాక్సీ. సో ఎప్పుడు రోడ్డు మీద హైవేలో నిలబడి యూస్ టు ఆస్క్ ఫర్ లిఫ్ట్ అంట. సో ఆయనకు డబ్బు లేదు కనుక బాధపడి ఈ సెడ్ ఐ షుడ్ కమ్ అప్ విత్ అన్ యాప్ where people can travel without having a car అని cheap rate level Uber వచ్చింది. So when people are discovering things like that, you get green cards world law. These are international level law. You do a patent and discovery or copyright and you get your green card. These are all national interest waivers. అంటే దేశానికి పనికొచ్చే ఇవన్నీ. So that's a way if you're creative. అంటే how these ideas have revolutionized the world, America. And the world also. సో అట్లా ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యూట్యూబ్ ఆల్ దీస్ ఛానల్స్ ఇవన్నీ వచ్చాయి కదా ఇప్పుడు ప్రపంచంలో ఇన్స్టాగ్రామ్ ఇవన్నీ. ఇఫ్ పీపుల్ కెన్ కమ్ అవర్ టెక్నాలజీ బాయ్స్, if they can come with
come up
national
with
interest waiver ideas, just an idea generation,
just an idea, they should have, I mean, they should be implementing that, or
yes, they should implement that. Then with this idea, if you go and do patent registration and copyright registration and say to the government, to the USCIS, idi nenu, because I'm coming with this idea, this will revolutionize the world, I can create employment, and this is national interest waiver, you will get a green card. You don't have to have a PhD. Yes.
So people who are looking for these path, they all can contact.
Absolutely. They can contact me, they can contact any immigration attorney anywhere in the country, and they have to do some research. See, key is the research. We have to do research. One has to do their own research. And there's so much of information available online.
Yeah. I mean, the interpretation of research will be different for everybody. So they need a, professional advice.
Yes, definitely. Artificial intelligence nowadays, ChatGPT is giving you all the information.
Yeah.
You ask anything, it's giving. So, I was, a few years ago, I came across this ChatGPT. I said, what is this ChatGPT? Then I started doing research on artificial intelligence now. And then I finished my PhD. Now it's so interesting. And I give lectures on that now. And what I'm trying to say, we have to improvise our lives. ఏదో ఇండియా నుంచి బీటెక్ చేసి వచ్చాము, అందరిలాగా మాస్టర్స్ చేసాము, ఏదో అసైన్మెంట్లు కాపీ కొట్టాము, ఏదో మళ్ళీ రెజ్యూమే ఫ్యాబ్రికేట్ చేసాము, జాబ్ వచ్చింది కాకుండా, ఇఫ్ సంబడి ఈస్ సో క్రియేటివ్, దే కెన్ చేంజ్ ద వరల్డ్, అండ్ ఇట్స్ పాసిబుల్. One has to think in that direction. And especially Indian kids are very smart because they have excellent engineering background, they know algorithms, they understand technology. They are smart people and they are doing extremely well. ఇప్పుడు మీరు చూసుకుంటే అమెరికాలో 82% of IT companies are owned by Indians. 82%, and they are very successful. మరి అమెరికాకు వచ్చి సక్సెస్ఫుల్ అవుతున్నారు కదా. మరి if these young kids who are coming to America, ఇప్పుడు ఈ సంవత్సరం 1,20,000 మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ వచ్చారు. If they can do something extra and if they have an idea, if they come up, if they do it, they'll be successful. And a lot of people now call చేస్తూ ఉంటారు ఐడియాస్తోని. I tell them, improvise this idea, come back to me, we will apply for a green card. It will happen. And again, we have to, presentation is important. ఎట్లా ప్రజెంట్ చేస్తాం ఇమిగ్రేషన్ కి. Absolutely.
So employee and employer. So on H1 or immigrant or non-immigrant or citizen, these days we see people are doing multiple jobs at the same time. So what can an employee or client can do in this case?
Multiple jobs. Biggest topic now. Biggest topic now in technology industry. In multiple jobs, how it came ante, recently when the COVID happened, people working from home. And almost all software companies closed their offices. And they were actually making money when making the consultant to sit home and work. And operation costs tagipeni. All the IT companies' profits became high. And they said now start from working from home. వీళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారు ఇప్పుడు ఐటీ కంపెనీ వాళ్ళు, మనం యాజ్ ఐ సెడ్ టు యూ 82% of companies are owned by Indians now. And that too from Desis, that too from South India, and that too from Telugu people. These are all smart people. So what they did, they started taking 2 to 3 jobs. ఇప్పుడు ఇంట్లో ఉన్నారు కదా, you're not going to the office, so you're having 2 to 3. I have a client ఉన్నాడు, he did 7 jobs, 7 computers పెట్టి, he made $1 million in salary only. So there are 2 things to it, Amma. For example, if you're an H1B guy, you're only authorized to work for one employer. And if you do 2 jobs, that means you're doing illegally. You're breaking the law. And 2, when you're working for a second employer, there is a provision in immigration law that you have to file another H1B. Part-time. Manam evaru cheyaru. No consulting company did that. Because the moment you file a second H1B, the employer is obligated to pay tax, employee కూడా ట్యాక్స్ కట్టాలి. మరి వీళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, 2 to 3 జాబ్స్ చేసేసి ఎంప్లాయర్స్ ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, ఇక్కడ శాలరీలు ఇవ్వట్లేదు ఆ డబ్బు, దే ఆర్ గివింగ్ మనీ అవుట్ సైడ్ అమెరికా. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ మనీ లాండరింగ్. ఇట్స్ అ ఫెడరల్ అఫెన్స్, జైలు. the economic offences.
Yeah.
That means you're not paying tax to America. Employer you're earning money, employee you're earning money, but you're evading tax. Evading tax is the highest offence in America. That's called tax evasion is a felony, and you're cheating the American government. It's felony. Adi offence employees ki. Employer చేయిస్తున్నాడు కనుక employer కూడా there is a responsibility in an employer. మీరు American law comply చేయాలి.
What employers or clients have the right to take the legal actions against the employee, and a lot of people are not aware of multiple jobs are doing is a crime, so they're not aware of that. So can you put a light on these topics?
See, let's talk in two different topics. What are the obligations of an employer and what are the obligations of an employee? And when employer comes to know that your employee is doing multiple jobs, see, one must understand what is meaning of multiple jobs. That means you're employed with multiple employers. You're doing 2-3 different employers are there, or even clients are there. You're doing multiple projects. For an IT guy, you're doing multiple projects and you're making money as an employee. So when an employer comes to know that your employee is violating the law, why? For example, if a company sponsored an employee, he's only obligated to work for that employer for 40 hours a week. And if he's doing overtime, he can do the same to the same employer. But if you're doing it to another employer, then that means the employee is violating the immigration law, H-1B regulation. So the employer can give a notice to cure, hey, don't do this, and if you don't cure it, I will terminate your visa. That means he can report to the immigration or to the other agencies and they can revoke the visa. A revocation is just a one letter to the immigration, they will cancel the visa. Once your visa is cancelled because you violated the law, you can never get a different H-1B, you can never get any other visa, you have to go back. So that is one right employer has. Sometimes clients also come to know this. But here the question is, because the clients are not employers of these consultants. So clients do not have a locus standi. They cannot do anything to the consultant. They can only write to the employer saying that we came to know that there could be an information could be assimilated outside, that he's giving our information to somebody else, because it's infringement of privacy of this company also, information. Because he's doing multiple jobs, multiple projects, he will give your access to somebody in India or some other part of the world. So that's infringing the privacy. And it's against the company policy as well. So the client can notify the employer and to the consultant and say, hey, you're breaching the law, so we could report you. And there are many remedies available to the client also. And it's a serious offense also. It's a felony for the consultants. And number 3, let us talk about the employees. See, most of the times when the employees, they come here, they're either students or they came and did masters, or they, after many attempts, they got an H-1B. They're all desperate. They want to make money. They want to take more than 2 projects and they want to work for multiple employers. So what they're doing is, the law says you can only work for one employer. You can't do 2. So you can only work for one employer. You have to be on the payroll. You have to pay the payroll taxes. You have to pay the taxes. In this country, majority of tax is paid by the employee, not by the employer. The 30% is paid by the employee and 3% is only paid by the employer, payroll taxes. So the employer doesn't have a tax obligation. As an employee, you have an obligation because you're making money in America. So you have to pay the money, you have to pay tax to this country. If you're evading the tax and you're taking the money in another country or some other bank account, that means you're evading the tax. Tax evasion is an offense, federal offense. 2, you're siphoning the money to somebody else. That means it's a bad money, black money. It's a bad money. So you're getting it deposited in somebody else's account, or you're getting it deposited in your overseas account. that means you are
running the paychecks on the
paychecks on family members. That means that's a misrepresentation again. It's a very serious offense too. So these are all federal offenses. The employee could go to federal jail in this country because money laundering is an offense, evasion of tax is an offense, misrepresentation is an offense. These are all criminal offenses. So you could go to jail. And most of the employees, when I get to hear, or students, they come up and say, oh, I don't know the law of this land. But ignorance of law is not an excuse in this country. You need to know the law of this land. And fourth thing is, because there's the biggest offense in this country is you're displacing an American worker. See, if you're taking an American worker job, for example, you're a green card holder, I'm a citizen. If these guys are not working, that job would have come to you as a green card holder, or it would have come to me as a citizen. So these students or these H-1B guys who are coming, they're taking 7 to 8 jobs away. So you're displacing an American worker. That is a serious offense in this country, as per the Department of Labor, as per the immigration law. So I can also complain as against the guy. If I come to know that my neighbor is doing 7 jobs, 3 jobs, I can also complain to the government saying that he's taking away my job. I can give a complaint as against the employer. I can give a complaint as against the employee. It's a serious offense. They could go to jail.
So in other cases, employer firing an employee, so the employee is going and filing a case against especially racial discrimination. So we see a lot of these cases nowadays. So if you can talk on that.
See, first of all, one must understand, as I said to you earlier, because the labor laws are all codified for protecting the employee rights. Most of the labor laws in the world, they're designed to protect the employee. So employee has a lot of rights. So, but don't abuse them. For example, as you rightly said, that why they're terminating you. So America is hire and fire policy. If you see, for example, if somebody is filing an H-1B for you and you get 3 years of employment, but there is also an employment agreement executed between the employer and employee. And that employment agreement is a contract law. And it says that it is employee at will. What does that mean? Employee can terminate the employment, employer can terminate. With cause, without cause. In common law in England, they said you cannot terminate without cause. You have to show some justification why you are terminating me. But in America, I can terminate you without any cause. Means next day morning I could come and say, I don't like you, you have a tattoo, I can fire you. So with cause and without a cause. And tomorrow I could come and say that you might be chatting with somebody on Facebook or WhatsApp. I said, I don't want you, I can fire you. So with cause and without cause. Sometimes I might not even like you. I want to fire you. So as an employer, I don't have to give you any justification. That is without cause. And I can terminate you anytime. That is what the employment agreement says. It is at will. Employee can say, I don't want to work for you. I got another job, I'm going. So, but the employment agreement will say that you have to give 4 weeks of notice. And if you don't follow that, there's a breach of agreement by the employer or by the employee. For example, if I want to terminate you because we have an employment agreement, I have to give you 4 weeks notice. Let's say that you're my employee. I sponsored you on an H-1B. Tomorrow I say, I don't want you. I'll give you a 4-week notice. Go and find another employer. If you can't find an employer, I will have to give you notice and I will have to pay you repatriation funds. I have to pay you airfare. I said, go home. And I have to pay you all the wages. That is an obligation on the employer. And what is the obligation of an employee? Employee has to find another employer to find another H-1B. Or if they want to go home, they have to take the repatriation funds, they can go home. Sometimes they want to go and get educated. They want to get new skill. And they can go and get a change of status to an F1. Or if they want to
If they are like citizens.
Citizens.
Yeah.
If they're citizens, then because they can go and get unemployment benefits also. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And two, they have to see under what circumstances employer has terminated you. As you rightly said, that these days they are filing discrimination claims. Discrimination is a civil rights claim. It is not a Department of Labor claim. You go to the Civil Rights Board and say that because my human rights have been violated, because he is discriminated me, that let's say that I'm working with this employer as an accountant or I'm working as a programmer, now he find another girl or a boy who is working for him for a lesser price or lesser compensation, he fired me, he's discriminated me. So in those cases you can file a case that because of that reason he terminated me, unreasonably is terminated me. That is called discrimination. So the onus is on you when you file a complaint on discrimination claims. In discrimination claims, you cannot ask for a civil compensation. You can only go to the human rights, civil rights authority and file a complaint. They will see whether you've been discriminated because you're an American citizen. Most of the times the discrimination claims are good for government, not for a private employee. For example, you're working for a government, they fired you, and the discrimination claims are valid for that. Sometimes for the private also, discrimination claims are valid, but there are very thin line between the government and private. So most of the discrimination claims, if your employer is a private consulting company, you will not be successful. So that's what it is.
So here we want to make sure the agreement is properly done.
Yes. First thing is the employment agreement has to be properly drafted. Most of the times what these desi companies they do, they pick up online employment agreement template and they cut and copy.
Yeah.
And cut and copy is called plagiarism in America. It's an offense. You can't cut and copy. And two, when you're giving an agreement to the employee, most of the time employees want a job. So they take your agreement. You have a right to approach an attorney. And you can get a legal representation. Somebody could review your contract and say that this is against your interest. Most of the times when I see employment agreements, they're so poorly drafted. I give you an example. For example, if your company is a Virginia company and your employees are Virginia employees. Let's say you give a job to somebody and there is an employment contract, you give it to your employee. So the employment agreement will say if there is any dispute between you and the employee, California law applies and you have to go to California court. Do you have any relevance of Virginia to California?
Yeah.
Because they have cut and copied that in the internet.
Yeah.
So California law doesn't apply here. So it's a voidable contract.
Yeah.
So it will be a voidable contract. So it will be in favor of employee. Because you're an employer of Virginia. Why would you want, if any dispute happens between an employer and employee, to be in California? Because your law of Virginia applies. So this will be in favor of employees. So this will be a voidable contract. So one, as an employer, you have to have a good lawyers to draft a contract. And employees, when the employer gives you an employment contract, try and see an attorney who does employment law. Get your contract reviewed by an attorney. Talk to them and ask them whether this contract is drafted in interest of you as an employee. Sometimes there are some clauses are in the interest of employer and there are some clauses in the interest of employee. So get them reviewed and vetted by a lawyer and get it executed. That means sign the contract. Otherwise, these contracts will be invalid. It will be thrown in the garbage.
Yeah.
So there'll be loss to the employee, loss to the employer if they want to litigate on the employment agreement. That's the reason in this country, lawyers play a pivotal role in contract drafting. But most of the desi guys, they go online, pick up something from online and they cut and paste. So that's not the right way. So we get all those cases, we always advise clients.
So coming to the diverse cases. So if people are married in other than US, like India or any other country. So can they take divorce here?
Excellent area. These days, what is happening in the world now, because of my firm and all over the world, most of the divorces are happening in technology workers. Majority of divorces are happening in technology men and technology women, not otherwise. Why? Because of their lifestyle, because of their stress, because they are independent and everything. So the issue of divorce is now, what is happening is, for example, if people get divorced, people get married in India. A lot of time people come to America on a student visa, they meet somebody, or they meet somebody in India, or they meet somebody in matrimonial sites, they decide to get married in India. Either it could be a Hindu marriage or a Christian marriage or a Muslim marriage, because our families want to see the marriage. So once you go to India or get marriage registered and the Hindu Marriage Act, you register the marriage, but you come back to America. But you've been living in America for 5 to 10 years. The law in America says it is called jurisdiction, where you live. Where is your matrimonial home? For example, if your matrimonial home is Virginia, if they're living in Richmond, if the husband and are living in Virginia, in Richmond, and if they decide to get divorced, the Richmond courts will have jurisdiction. Number one. Number two, because you got married under the Hindu law, because your marriage is registered under the Hindu law in India, and if you guys are both are Indians, if you're not American citizens, because the Indian law applies also, you can also file in Indian courts. But both parties have to accept the jurisdiction of the Indian courts. So this is called jurisdiction. It's a very complex area. In jurisdiction, there are three things. One is called personal jurisdiction. What does it mean? Two human beings are living in that court jurisdiction. Let's say a husband and wife, they're living in Richmond area. Husband and wife have a house, they bought a house, or they rented a house, they're living in Richmond. So the courts in Richmond would have jurisdiction. That is called personal jurisdiction. And two, in Richmond, you're living in a certain county. That county court will have a jurisdiction on you. That is called territorial jurisdiction. You're living in that territory. That is called territorial jurisdiction. Third thing, even though you married in India, but you're living like a husband and wife in Richmond and Virginia, you fought between, you guys had a fight like a husband and wife, you decided to separate yourself, so subject matter jurisdiction. So one is called personal jurisdiction, you both are living in that jurisdiction. Second is you're living in the territory of that court. And third is called, because you fought in a domestic violence or something, the subject matter is in that state, that particular city, it's called subject matter jurisdiction. So those courts will have jurisdiction. It's a very complex area.
But they can take
Absolutely, yes.
in their own
If
place.
they want to both go and get divorced in India, they can do it. If they don't both choose it, if they want to do, if one party wants to file it in Richmond or in that particular county, they can go to that county court, they can file a divorce, they can get divorced in America too.
So when you said domestic violence, so women who are going under domestic violence, even men also, like so these days, so whoever is going with this domestic violence, what are the first steps to file for a divorce, or collect the evidence?
Okay, let us discuss in two aspects. One aspect is somebody is having a domestic violence. First of all, what is actually a domestic violence? A domestic violence is a violence between a husband and wife.
It could be mental.
It could be girlfriend and boyfriend also, or it could be between two friends as well. It could be physical, it could be mental, and it could be financial. And there are different types of violence. For example, if you see physical violence, somebody coming and hitting you, slapping you, assault, that's a physical attack. Somebody comes and hurts you physically, that's a physical assault, physical violence. Somebody also calls you with names, and they call you, oh, you're a fatty, or you're shorty, you're a blackie, all those things, and you're constantly torturing that woman or a man on mental level. Or you don't talk to that person, you don't eat with that person, or you lock that person inside the house and you go and you mentally torture, and you say that, oh, don't talk to your family, you have to talk in front of me, I will not give you phone. These are all mental. So there is a mental assault, there's a physical assault. Sometimes these guys who bring wives from India, they don't open a bank account for the wife. This is financial assault. They don't give money to them. And they don't give them driving license. They don't open a bank account. They don't give money. They will also say, oh, I'm bringing the money, you're sitting and eating. And you're not bringing any money on the table. Or you did not bring any dowry. This is also financial, assaulting somebody with finances. It's a financial distress. You're assaulting somebody, not giving them enough money. You're saying you cannot drive and you cannot come out and speak to my friends. You cannot wear certain clothes. All those things comes in mental. So physical and mental and financial. And sometimes they also threaten saying that if you complain to the police, I will cancel your visa and send you back to your country. This is immigration also. So there are so many aspects of domestic violence. So what are the rights for the parties? For example, for a woman or a man. The first thing is the woman has a right to call cops by 911. That's one thing. And two, sometimes because we don't have access, you can also go to your doctors and tell them, to your female doctors or the male doctors. They will record your domestic violence and they will report to the police. And they will report to the social worker. And they will report to this city. You don't have to say. So that's the second thing you can do it. And third thing, there are some non-profit agencies in America, they work with you. If you call them, they will come to your house. They will come, they bring the social worker. Sometimes it could be a child abuse, father is abusing the children, or sometimes mother is abusing the children. So you can call them, the non-profit guys will come, the child support staff will come, social worker will come, and they will call the police, or they will call different agencies. Sometimes they will also give you a shelter for the children and for the mother. And it happens with the men also. Even men get domestic violence. We get cases, 1 or 2% even men get assaulted by women. I have a client recently, this woman married 3 times, and this guy is the 3rd victim, my client. This woman married 3 times, 3 different men, and took away all the houses of 3 men. My guy is a victim. He lost close to $1 million now. So there are 1-2% men are also there. So where do they go? They can go and give a complaint to the police. Sometimes when the police don't take the complaint, you can go and give a complaint to the district attorney. What is a district attorney? They are called prosecutors in our country. You can also give complaint to them. So there are various agencies in America you can give complaints. Coming back to the evidence, many times husbands or wives, they record conversations of husbands. If the husband is shouting, the woman will record the conversation. And sometimes the husband records the conversation. And sometimes, most of the times, husbands are having cameras their wives don't even know. All this technology guys, they do it. And I get all this, we get all these calls from clients to us. So, these men, they control women. Sometimes women also do that. But it's only 1%. Most of the times it's men that do it. So they have to collect evidences, number one. Number two, when in some states, when you're recording a conversation of a wife or a husband, without the consent, without the knowledge of the wife or a husband, that information which you collected or which you recorded in your phone, inadmissible. That can be taken. So every state has its own laws. So what my opinion would be, anybody who's watching your show, they should do research and see every state has its own law in terms of domestic violence. And two,
to collect the legitimate evidence.
Yes, to collect the legitimate evidence. And the second aspect is immigration aspect. Most of the times when the men say, oh, because you came on my visa, children on my visa, I'm earning money, you better keep shut your mouth. And they abuse women. So at that time, they can also get work authorizations under the battered spouse syndrome. They can get green cards. My law firm is doing for a lot of people, we're doing it. Battered spouse syndrome, and even H-1B guys, wives, they can also get work authorization. I've got some work authorization from a firm for many women without the help of husband. So immigration wise also you can get some benefit.
Options.
Sometimes you're a victim of a crime. We have our firm has some clients, the husband used fire and knife cut the wife's hands and children's hands. When you're a victim of a crime, the American government, if you support and if you cooperate with the government, you will also get green cards as a victim of crime.
So is that VAWA visa and U visas or the...
Yes, that's VAWA is for people, Violence Against Women Act, that is only applicable for the husband who's to be American citizen. If the American husband is not an American citizen, that doesn't apply. It only, the U visa applies for the non-immigrant, which is U visa, which you said. And these days, we are getting also clients from my firm that employers without the knowledge of employees, they're filing multiple registrations. So one day they're getting a letter from the immigration, their visa has been revoked. So what is their remedy now? My firm has filed a T visa for them. These are victim of crimes. And they can stay in the country without an H1. They get work authorization. Yes. So there are different types of visas available. They have to get in touch with this competent immigration lawyers. And they should go and see them, talk to them. Because immigration, there are a lot of specialties. Somebody who does H1 and L1, these are called business immigration lawyers. They might not know other type of visas. So they should see the lawyers who does U visas, battered spouse visas, or somebody who does immigration litigation lawyers. They would know more than guys who does H1s and L1s. So this specialty again, subspecialty in immigration law. So your audience, they should do research and get in touch with lawyers who specialize in those areas and go to them, hire them, and get your status back, protect your interest.
DUI, driving under influence, intoxication. So when they are under custody or they are under interrogation, so can they use Miranda law?
Good, excellent question. Nobody has covered until today. First of all, what is Miranda warnings? It's a classic law of America. Miranda was a United States case. The law says in this country, there's nowhere in the world you have this law. For example, if a police stops you and if he investigates you, you can raise your hand and say that, sir, I want Miranda warnings to be administered. That means I want my lawyer to be with me. It's a constitutional right you have under the 5th and 6th Amendment. You raise your hand and say, sir, I want my lawyer. If I don't want to talk without my lawyer, the police will stop asking you questions. The police have to give you a warning, that's called Miranda warnings. That means he has to tell you that, are you willing to talk to me without your lawyer? He has to give you that. That's called administering Miranda warnings. If the police officer asks you any question without Miranda warnings, whatever the information you gave it to the police is inadmissible. So that's a classic thing. So every immigrant who comes to this country, and they must know what is Miranda warnings, and they should also know 5th and 6th Amendment rights of this country. You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to have an attorney. And without attorney, if you say that, sir, I don't want to speak anything to you other than my attorney present, the police officer or immigration officer or any federal law enforcement officer, they have to stop asking you questions. They can ask you only 2 questions, your identification questions. What's your name? Where you from? They cannot ask anything about the law, anything about the crime, or anything about your personal things without a lawyer being present. Those are called Miranda warnings.
So after, if they are under arrested for DUI, is the bail process is a long time or?
See, once, what is driving under intoxication? Why it is classified as an offence? See, driving while intoxication, they see that when you're driving a car, if you're drunk, the American analogy is the car is like a weapon. You can go and kill people. That is their analogy. You're driving a car, but you're driving under intoxication. That means you're drunk. So you would not know. You could go and kill people. So for the safety of human beings, they said, no. If you're driving under intoxication, there are certain levels. Every state has certain levels. that you can drink. You know, you can drink and drive for 1 beer, but not 2-3 beers. Or you cannot, there are certain levels, every state has that levels. So when you're drinking while intoxicated, when you're stopped by a police officer, they will ask you to do, they will test you. You know, they will ask you to breathe, breath analyzer. Sometimes they will want to check up your blood. They will ask you whether you're sober. They will ask you to walk. They do all these preliminary steps by a police officer. Once they see there is a probable cause, the officer thinks that you're intoxicated. He thinks that is his reasoning. So that's called probable cause. If he thinks that you're intoxicated, they will stop and they will arrest you and they will take you to the police station. When they take you to the police station, the first thing is that means you're under arrest. When you're under arrest, what will they do? They take your picture, they take your fingerprint. The moment you're fingerprinted, until 20 years that will be there in in your arrest record. And two, they will also make the car towed by somebody else. So they will have a tow truck because they don't allow you to touch the car now. So once that process is done, there are 2 types of bail. One is called bail on personal recognizance. Second is called by bail bonds. What does this mean? What is the meaning of personal recognizance? That means in our country it's called personal zamanat. So that means he will leave you on your own promise saying that I'll come back to the police station or I'll come back to the court. That is called coming out of the precinct under the personal recognizance. It's a bail. The police officer can give you a bail. That's one type of bail. Two, sometimes the officer might say, I will set up a bail money for you. That pay $1,000, I will release you. So the police officer can also release you on personal bond, or second thing, he can set up a money. And third thing is, he says, I cannot release you on bail, I will send you before the magistrate or a judge. The judge sets up a bail bond. So this is the bail process. And normally within 24 hours this is done. Because the law of America says within 24 hours the police officer has to do all of this. Whether they have to send you before the judge or he can release you within 24 hours. It cannot be more than 24 hours. So within 24 hours they will be released.
But the record will be created on their name.
Absolutely.
And it will stay there for 20 years.
Until the case is dismissed, until the case is expunged. Expungement means recording that seal of case. Until that time, it will be open. When you go for a job, this will come up. When you go for a visa interview, this will come up. When you're going for an H1, this will come up. When you go for a green card, this will come up. Everywhere it will come up. When you're coming into the country also at the port of entry, this will come up. If you're a student, if you're an H1B, if you're a green card, or if you're a citizen, it will come up.
No, then you have to be careful.
You have to be careful. It's a very serious things. And drinking while intoxication, they classified this as a moral turpitude offense by the immigration. They said we don't want drink drivers in America. So they've classified certain offenses under the immigration law. They could cancel your visa also. Many of these students these days, once driving under intoxication, if they're getting arrested, the consulates are even cancelling their F1 and H1 also. So they have to be serious now. So many of our clients' student visas are being cancelled because they are arrested under the driving under intoxication. Many of the clients. So they have to be careful.
And coming to the same driving and accidents. So whenever people run into accident, they call the cops or they call the insurance agencies. They don't have the knowledge of calling reaching out to an attorney. So what is the benefits if they reach out to an attorney?
The first and foremost thing is one must understand when you're driving a car in America, you must understand certain laws. You have to understand motor vehicle law. You have to understand the insurance law. And you also have to understand the immigration law. And there are criminal laws as well when you're driving a car. Why? I tell you why. Because when there is an accident, again we must understand as a driver of a car what rights you have. First of all, do you have a right to drive in the country? Most of the times in India, or most of the students, they drive with Indian driving license. Can you drive with an Indian driving license? Do you have a right to drive in this country? Number one. Number two, do you have a driver's license in this country? And you have to have an unlimited driving license, not a conditional driving license. Number two, is your car insured? Is your name in the insurance coverage? If you're borrowing a friend's car, or if you're borrowing your wife's car, is your name in the insurance cover? Are you covered? There's a second thing. And third thing, if you're drinking and driving and committing an accident, that is a serious thing. Tomorrow, the insurance will not cover you because you're drinking and driving. You're breaking the law. And you're driving without a driver's license. You're breaking the law. You're driving a car without an insurance, breaking the law. In New York State, if you're driving a car without an insurance, you could go to jail. So every state has its own insurance laws. So one must understand what are the rights you have as a driver. That's number one. Number two, if you have ran into an accident, who is the wrongdoer? Whether you did the wrongdoing or somebody else has done the wrongdoing. Those are very important things. Are you following the signs, traffic signs, or are you not following the traffic signs? If you're not following the traffic signs, you're negligence per se. That means you're very negligent. That means the immigration law or the insurance law, criminal law, all these laws will not help you. Traffic law will not help you. So you have to follow the signs. You're not in a third world country. And you're driving a car without an insurance, that's an offense. You're driving a car without a driving license, that's an offense. If you're driving rash and negligently, you're not in third world country. There's a speed limit for you in hospital zones, in school zones, and there are certain zones you have to maintain your speed limit. If you're going over the speed limit, this amounts to rash and negligent driving. Don't tell that I don't know, because ignorance of law is not an excuse. And fourth thing is, once you are in an accident, the first thing is you cannot run away. A lot of Indian guys, students, they run away. If you run away from accident scene, that is an offense. That is a serious offense. More than hitting somebody. You're running away from an accident scene is more a serious offense. That's another offense. In like an FIR, they can charge you to another offense. So don't do that. So first thing is, once you have an accident, stop the car, and as a driver, you have an obligation to call the cops and approach the other person, whether he's a wrongdoer or a not wrongdoer, exchange the insurance information, and once it's all done, the police comes and does all their police report, then you go back and contact your insurance company. And lawyers' role is not a big thing, and when there is an accident. When their role will be big, when there is a police report, when there is a medical report, when there is a diagram of accident scene, then the lawyers will come into play. And most of the times, there are personal injury lawyers, they are very specialized, and they will take your case for free, and they will charge you when they win the case. So the lawyer's role is not paramount at the time of accident, but if you're arrested at the time of accident, if the police determines that you caused the accident, or if you're drinking driving, or you're driving without an insurance, or you're driving without a license, then they could arrest you. Then you can contact the lawyer. So you can contact the traffic lawyer, or you can contact the criminal defense attorney. Sometimes you need to contact the immigration lawyers as well. The moment the police arrest you, the information is shared by 27 agencies. So one of the agencies is immigration. The information goes to your consulate. So once you're arrested, the consulate revokes your visa. So it is better to contact an immigration lawyer as well. So these are the different areas of law.
It's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. So another question coming back to the properties. So a lot of people, we come here and money and buy multiple properties in India or any other countries. So how we can get that to our kids, like, doing a gift, or like, and what is a possible way?
Okay. One need to understand the property law is a state subject. For example, you have a property in Virginia. The Virginia law applies to you. For example, you and your husband, or you went and bought some properties in India. So when you buy properties in India, again the property law belongs to Indian law. So whether you are a Hindu or you're a Christian, whether you are inter-caste religion or inter-religion, different laws applies. The laws in India, for example, if you're getting a property from your parents, whether it is a stridana, whether you have self-acquired a property or you acquired a property during the marriage. If the property is acquired during the marriage in India or in America, the American law says tomorrow if the husband and wife are getting divorced, that amounts to marital property. When husband and wife are getting divorced, the property will be equitably distributed, not equal, equitable distribution, what they have contributed. So the properties in India can be added to the properties in America. The judges can distribute that property by the American courts. And same thing in India. Let's say somebody is getting divorced or somebody wants to get a division of property. The Indian courts can also divide the property of America under the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So this is a very complex area. For example, if you want to do a will, most of the times clients call our firm that we want to do a will. We have a property in India, we have a property in America, we have property in Ghana or other countries. So they can do a will in America. That is called estate laws. These are different laws from every state to state, country to country. So they can do a will here, they can do a gift. For example, in America, let's say you're doing a gift of property to your child or any friend who is accepting the gift in America, they have to pay the gift tax in America. But as well as in India, if you're giving a gift to somebody as a donor, you have to pay the gift tax. So every country has their own taxation laws, every country has their own estate laws, inheritance laws, property laws. It's a very complex subject. We will not be able to cover it in a couple of minutes of interview.
Yeah. So, but there is a way to do that.
Absolutely. They have to contact competent lawyers who are experienced and educated in multiple jurisdictions so that they can give advice. So for example, if you go to a Virginia attorney, they will only give you the law of Virginia. They will not be able to give you the law of India. If you go to an Indian attorney, Indian advocate, they will be only able to give you an Indian law. They will not be able to give you advice on American Virginia law. If somebody is practicing in multiple jurisdictions, they will be able to give you advice. So you have to seek international lawyers' advice.
And also these days we see lot of people are doing this will and trust.
Yes.
So they are taking the templates from online and doing it, or they are running to a CPA and doing it. So, I mean, what would you suggest, going to an attorney, or anybody can do like that?
Estate laws and trust laws and will, these are very complex. Inheritance laws are very complex and very specialized. You cannot download something from an online and do it, because trust, there are many types of trust. In involves a trust, revocable trust, irrevocable trust. There are so many types of trust.
Yeah.
CPS are not qualified to do that. And even in attorneys, there are specialized lawyers. These are called estate duty lawyers. Only those lawyers are qualified to do those things. Not an immigration lawyer or not a lawyer who's general practitioners. People who are specialized in that area, they can only do that. So I suggest your viewers that they should not download anything online. They should not do it, because the requirements of trust, the requirements of will, the requirements of gift, there are many testamentary documents. They have to be done by qualified lawyers, those who specialize in that area. And the second thing is, if they don't fulfill those criteria and essentials, those will be invalid. Why I'm telling you? Because your audience have to know. For example, in one case, one of my clients, husband and wife both died in an accident, and their children were not killed. And husband and wife died. There is no will, or there is no they didn't do any estate planning. When they both died, children, who has to take care of the children? And who will be the guardian for them? Who will invest money on them? To where will they stay? How will the property will come to them? Complex area. If you don't have anybody, sometimes you don't have children also. These days, a lot of H1B guys are coming, a lot of students are coming, they're driving together and they buy a house, they die. And if there's nobody there, the government takes away your property. That's called estate. So that means you have to do estate planning in this country. So nowadays Indians are buying a lot of multiple properties. They have to have an attorney who can advise you. These are all called estate planning. It's a specialized area. And if unfortunately if you die, the property is taken by the government.
Yeah.
So they have to consult estate lawyers.
Estate lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard in New York there is a law based on theft. Like, if the price is under $750, it is not considered as a theft. Is it true?
No.
No?
This is called petit larceny. Any theft below $500 is called petit larceny. Anything over $500 is called grand larceny. That means larceny means theft. So you are charged when you are doing a theft of below $500. That is called misdemeanor. Anything over $500 is called felony.
Felony.
It's called grand larceny. That's a misnomer. I don't know whoever told it's wrong. A theft is a theft in this country. They are moral turpitude offense. You will be arrested. You will be put in jail. You can go to 1 day jail, or you can go 1 year less than jail is misdemeanor. Anything which is more than 1 year prison term is called felony, and you will lose your immigration status, and you will not get a green card. You will not get an H1. You will, when you're coming into the country, they will stop you. You will not get a job. Anytime when you get, we have a lot of clients, our firm, a lot of these young girls, they come, they go to grocery stores, they're stealing grocery, $250. These days you're seeing many Indian Telugu girls, they're going and stealing grocery, and they're getting arrested. Police officers, when they look at their camera, when they're seeing you, when their body cam, they're recording everything and they're publishing on YouTube's now. So anything, even if it's $250, if you steal anything, that's called petit larceny. That's still an offense.
Still an offense.
Absolutely, yes.
So based on my research, we were come to know that lot of robberies targeting the Indian jewelers nowadays. So when they are doing the shows, they have been attacked. So I mean, in case of insurance and in case of without insurance, if there is a chance of recovery.
Okay. In insurance laws, one must understand insurance law. Insurance law is a specialized law. This country's biggest business is insurance, because it started from England, lawyers insurance. In the Western world, insurance is the biggest industry. So why they want you to insure goods? So when we go to Home Depot also, they will say, when you go to buy a TV or a computer, they say, do you want to buy an insurance? They'll say only $10, $15. Why they want you to do an insurance? Because if in case, if that's broken or if somebody steals, you can go and claim insurance from the insurance company. These are called indemnity contracts. So when you're doing a show, when you're taking jewelry and going to one place to another place for a show, you can also buy insurance. When you're doing those shows, because these are all gold and diamond, these are precious metals, the insurance coverage, insurance premium is very high. So most of the merchants, what they do, because they don't want to pay the insurance. Why? Because the insurance premium is very high. Maybe it's not commercially feasible for them, because they might not make profits. So there is another concept called, sometimes if the goods are not insured, there is a procedure called no-fault liability. You can also go and claim no-fault liability. Without your fault, you lost the goods, you can still recover some money.
Oh, really?
That's called no-fault liability. And you can also go to the city. Sometimes you are in that particular city. The city also has certain funds. You can also go and claim some insurance from the city as well. There are many types you can claim money when goods are lost.
Yeah, so all the viewers, whoever is viewing this, can contact Srinivas Kavete garu.
I am not here to solicit business, but it's an information.
Yeah. Because it's the jewelry is in millions, so they have to be recover some amount.
Yes, it's possible. They can do it. Yeah. And sometimes if they become victims also, sometimes somebody comes and hits you, and this will be very helpful for some viewers of yours who are students or some guys who are going. These blacks or whites and Spanish, they come and hit you with guns, or they will injure you sometime because you're a foreigner, or if you're a foreign student. Recently, last week, we had a call from one of the client. He was an Indian student. He was walking to a university. This white man comes and hits him, and he hits him physically. He injures the head, and he calls the police. The university police called them, and they arrested this white guy. And the police asked, "Why did you hit him?" He said, "Because this is a foreigner guy. He's an international student. I don't want foreigners or international students in my town. So that's the reason I injured him." So that's racial attack. So when things happen like that, there is a provision in the city and the state and the federal government, victim fund, victim compensation fund. You can go to the city, municipality, you can go to the state, you can go to the federal government, you can get up till $70,000. You could not be insured, you're a student, but you're a victim of a crime, you can claim some money from the government. Nobody knows there's money sitting in the federal government. It's called Crime Victim Fund.
Crime victim.
They can do research and get money.
Oh.
Nice to know. So my last question, can you talk about some weird or unknown laws?
Weird laws. I just did one video for that as a weird laws of America. Some states, if for example you're looking into a lady, into their eyes, and some laws says that you're infringing their privacy, they could report you. And some weird laws, sometimes if you're whistling in our countries, in some third world countries and even Spanish countries, you can whistle. If you whistle in public, you can be charged. That's a weird law. You can be charged. And some states, if you're going to certain places, for example, if there are federal government places or Indian reservations, if you go into their land, you could be charged because you might not know. And there are certain restricted areas you cannot walk. And there are certain places you cannot even take camera also. There are some weird laws in this country. You could be charged for espionage, or you can be charged for anything. So people have to be careful, and these are certain weird laws in this country.
Is the petting a neighbor's dog is a...
It's some states also can be an offense. Petting a neighbor's dog, petting neighbor's children also can be an offense too. We had clients in the past from my law firm that the next door neighbor went and complained, saying that next door neighbors are Indians, they are petting my daughter or my son or my dog. So she went and complained. The police charged them. So you cannot touch your other children or pet the dogs of other people. You can't even give the food to next door child or even dog, because you have to take their consent. So these are very serious offenses in this country, and our guys, when they come, we don't know because we think it's common. Sometimes even touching cheeks of kids in the buses and trains, that's an offense too.
And I read in Virginia, tickling a woman is also a crime?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I just said. Because recently we had a client calling us. Old parents came from India, and they were sitting with a small American child, and this daughter and husband, son-in-law went to the bathroom. The old man came from India, sitting there, and there was a small white girl, and he was, he was doing, like this. So her mother went and complained to the police. The father was arrested.
Oh.
So don't touch, foreigners, and if you don't, because you think you're coming from India, we think it's okay showing the love, but you're in a foreign country, you need to know the law of the land. So it's a serious offenses. So not knowing law is not a defense. So ignorance of law is not a defense. So you'll be punished. So it'll cost you money, and it will cost you humility. It'll cost you money for going to the court. It'll cost you money for the lawyers, and you'll be in trouble. So don't do things like that. So when you're in a foreign land, try to know the law of that land and follow the law. That's my advice.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming.